When you think about the beginnings of artificial intelligence, your mind probably jumps to, code breakers, super smart chess machines, that kind of thing. But what if I told you a huge part of AI's origin story wasn't about logic at all, but about love? Today, we are digging into the secret, poetic history of the tech that is literally changing our world. Okay, so we've all heard of the Turing test, right? It's Alan Turing's famous idea for figuring out if a machine can think so well that it can actually fool a person. It's the test that frames pretty much every movie and discussion we have about AI. But here's the twist. The real origin story for AI generating language, well, it's not about passing some test. It's about poetry. The very first language model wasn't built for a game of wits. It was designed to write love letters. Yep, you heard that right. The granddaddy of today's LLMs was a digital romantic.
To get how this even happened, we've got to go back to the 1950s. And this story isn't just about Alan Turing. It's really about a partnership between two incredible minds, Turing and a programmer he inspired named Christopher Strachey. Both of these guys walked the halls of King's College, Cambridge, though a few years apart. Turing was already the established math god, while Strachey was this up-and-coming programming prodigy. And really importantly, King's College was known for being super liberal, which was a pretty necessary safe haven for both of them since they were gay in an era when that was literally a crime in Britain. And Turing's genius was just undeniable. I mean, even the legendary economist John Maynard Keynes, who was also at King's, wrote about him in a letter. He knew right away he was dealing with a once-in-a-generation mind. So their paths finally cross in 1951. Strachey, who's working as a school teacher at the time, hears Turing on a BBC broadcast talking about this wild idea of computers that can think. He gets so inspired by the idea of a chess-playing machine that he just starts coding one himself. The catch? He didn't have a computer. He wrote the entire thing by hand and just mailed it to Turing. And you have to understand what a crazy feat this was. Programming back then was just brutal. You wrote your code by hand, punched it onto paper tape, and fed it into a machine the size of a room. And if you made one tiny mistake, you got nothing back. No error message, no hints, you just had to start all over again. But Strachey, when he finally got a chance to use Turing's computer, he debugged his whole massive program in one night. Just one night. The math prodigy instantly knew he'd found a programming prodigy. Turing saw that Strachey wasn't just a coder, he was a creative thinker. He got him a job, and just like that, the two became colleagues. And this incredible partnership would lead to something completely unexpected. Something way more whimsical than a chess game.
Now, the timing here is absolutely critical. Strachey arrives in Turing's lab just 2 months after Turing's devastating arrest and conviction for being gay. I mean, this was the absolute low point of his life. So for Turing, having this brilliant, like-minded collaborator to bounce ideas off of, it became a creative lifeline.
And then, that summer, something really weird started happening. These strange, kind of poetic, typewritten love letters. They just started showing up on the lab's notice board. So who was the secret admirer?
Well, the signature at the bottom gave it away. MUC, for Manchester University Computer. The letters weren't from a person. They were from the machine humming away in the next room. And there it was. Strachey had done it. With a tiny program, only about 200 lines of code, he'd created the Love Letter Generator, or LLG. And today, we see it as the very first piece of computer-generated literature, the true grandfather of the large language models we have now.
So how on earth did a computer from the 1950s write poetry without any of the stuff we'd call AI today? Well, the answer is just, it's a beautifully simple and clever piece of programming. Strachey's program basically followed 4 simple rules. First, it would randomly pick a greeting, like, "Dear Darling." Then, it looped 5 times to write the body of the letter. And for each line, it would just fill in the blanks of a sentence template with random words. Finally, it would slap on a sign-off like, "Ardently yours, MUC." Now, the real magic of the program was in its 2 core sentence structures. For every single line, it had a 50-50 shot of choosing either the simple pattern A, like, "You are my avid desire," or the more complicated pattern B. This simple choice, this coin flip, was the engine behind all the surprising variety. And get this, the program's vocabulary was tiny, like laughably small, only about 70 words that Strachey basically just pulled from a thesaurus to make it sound a bit more flowery. But And this is the magic of combinatorics. That tiny vocabulary and those two simple templates could generate over 300 billion unique love letters. The machine would never, ever write the same one twice.
And this is the straight line to today. The love letter generator used fixed templates and just random chance. Modern LLMs, they learn these incredibly complex patterns from data and use statistics. But that fundamental idea, generating text based on probability, that seed was planted right here, 1952.
Which brings us full circle all the way back to Turing's original question: can a machine think? But after seeing what Strachey created, the question itself, well, it starts to change. The really tragic postscript to this whole story is that the partnership was cut way too short. Alan Turing died just 2 years later. He never got to see where these incredible ideas would eventually lead. And just 4 months after Turing's death, Strachey published this article that completely reframed the whole debate. He argued that the question isn't really, can a computer think? The real question is, can we write a program that makes it seem to think? And that forces us to decide what thinking even means in the first place. So, the biggest insight from this story isn't about the machine's mind. It's about ours. The love letter generator was just spitting out random words, but because it was framed as a love letter, people found patterns. They saw beauty. They felt something. The machine gives us the text, but we're the ones who give it meaning. So the question at the end of the day isn't whether the machine can think. It's how its words make us think. And maybe more importantly, how they make us feel.